South Asia is one of the most concentrated regions in terms of terror presence, which makes it susceptible to the continued attacks planned and launched by Islamic radicals. The region suffered huge economic and human losses to terrorism in 2019. From Pulwama attacks to deadly Easter Sunday bombings, terrorism claimed scores of lives in the subcontinent. Unabated Pak-backed spree of violence killed hundreds in Afghanistan in spite of repeated warnings by international organizations including the FATF. Islamabad has been brazenly nurturing, training and launching more and more terrorists to unleash bloodshed in the region. Today, we focus on this never-ending Pak-sponsored story of violence. A report. South Asia has long been facing the wrath of Islamist terrorism. According to a partial data compiled by an online terrorism portal since 2005, the region has accounted for at least 71,400 Islamist terrorism-linked fatalities. Year 2019 saw 3 deadliest attacks in South Asia, which together claimed 391 lives.
South Asia has been facing a lot of militant attacks, mainly sponsored by the ISI, and Pakistan is using ISI and ISI is using the militants to sponsor and to forward its own policy to ensure that people come in line, the countries that are in the neighborhood come in line and support Pakistan. Now, in Sri Lanka, the Easter Sunday attack was an eye-opener for them, and the crackdown that was done came out with startling results. There were big businessmen who were involved, and it was on the same pattern as what happened in India in the Bombay blast, when Dawood Ibrahim and his family were involved in it. This shows that Pakistan has not given up its policy of using terrorism as its state policy and furthering its interests.
As the world was still celebrating the fervour of New Year, India received a major setback in the form of Pulwama terror blast on February 14th. On that day, the beautiful land of Kashmir Valley was soaked with the blood of brave martyrs of Indian CRPF when a convoy of around 2,500 Central Reserve Police Force personnel was targeted by a Jaish Mohammad suicide bomber, Adil Ahmed Dar. The attack on Indian security forces was the result of Pakistan's desperate pressure on the terrorists to indulge into action in Kashmir. Pulwama terrorist attack shares direct links with Pakistan's notorious spy agency, Inter-Services Intelligence or ISI, because an extensive, properly planned terror attack could not have been possible without a high-profile external support. Masood Azhar, the main conspirator of the Pulwama attack, has still not brought to justice, owing to ISI's support to these terror lords.
Justice system all over the world requires evidence to convict anyone. Masood Azhar is the child and baby of ISI and the Pakistan Army, and they ensure that no evidence is presented against him whenever his case is called up in the court. It is for this reason that judges find it very difficult to give him a conviction.
As many as 253 people died, while hundreds got injured in a series of bomb blasts that hit luxury hotels and churches across Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday, leaving the entire country in a state of shock and lockdown. The attacks were claimed by the Islamic State, which is seeking to revive itself in South Asia after getting ousted from Iraq and Syria. It is pertinent to mention here that no terrorism group operates in a vacuum, and each has some type of sponsor to help them stay funded and operational. In South Asia, Inter-Services Intelligence or Pakistan's ISI is the main organization that provides aids to the terror groups. The intensity of the Sri Lanka serial blast left the South Asian region aghast, which was already struggling to overcome the shock of Pulwama blast. This time the target was different, but again the perpetrator was same, that is Pakistan.
Pakistan and ISI's footprint on the Easter Sunday attacks is very clear. The ISI was the main perpetrator which organized the shifting of the arms, ammunition, stocking and piling of it, plus training these people who later on went up to put on the explosives in all the churches. The ISI footprint was again very visible, the way after this attacks, these people who were involved in it were evacuated from Sri Lanka and brought to Pakistan.
Afghanistan remained the hotbed of Pakistan-sponsored violence in 2019 too, as the country saw a series of terror blasts by the Taliban and Islamic State, the two prominent insurgent groups operating in the country. The wedding suicide bombing in Kabul by ISIS emerged as the deadliest terror attack in the country last year. A suicide bomber targeted an Afghan wedding, killing 92 people who belong to the country's minority Shiite Hazara community. The Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group operating locally in as ISIS of Khorasan province claimed responsibility for the attack by issuing a statement on an IS-linked website. The group confirmed that a Pakistani Islamic State fighter targeted this large Shiite gathering in Kabul. It is pertinent to mention here that many countries in South Asia have seen an increase in terrorist activity from Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, Daesh and its affiliates in the past few years.